Another fine day in Montana. Welcome to this episode of the Electric Bison. So I was walking around town today. I noticed how happy everybody is, and I realized that no matter what happens in Washington, it's we who control our communities and decide how happy we're going to be. And being happy is a really good thing, especially if things start getting worse. No matter how much people tell you they're getting worse, you can still be happy. At least try to be. I thought I'd spend a few minutes today talking about President Trump's recent declaration that ANTIFA, the anti-fascist, association, a loose coalition of people that don't like Nazis, is a terrorist group. That's not true. They're not. I think that people need to know that terrorism is the systematic use of force, violence, to influence a civilian population in the direction of a religious or social or political philosophy. And in our country, we have not had terrorism as a crime because we have so many statutes on the books already against kidnapping or armored car holdups, which the neo-Nazis here in Montana were doing that back in the early 80s, or bank holdups. Again, neo-Nazis were doing that here in Montana in the early 80s, or murder, with the talk show host Alan Berg down in Denver, or it was violating his civil rights, which is what put some of the people who killed him in jail. They're just now getting out. So there's plenty of statutes on the books for when you actually do something wrong or harm somebody or harm property. And when President Bush declared Antifa as a terrorist organization domestically, he was basically making law instead of allowing the U.S. Congress to make law. Again, I don't expect any of our 4 road agents that we have for congressmen and senators to do anything about it. They basically are rolling over for President Bush, for President Trump, and they're not representing us at all, really. But if they wanted to, they could try to put a statute through about domestic terrorism. I think it's most likely they would modify the Foreign Agent Act, which is what President Trump seems most interested in, is money coming from overseas. But when there was an effort made here in Montana to declare Antifa a terrorist organization, the same group of people, MAGA people, that have been hammering on this issue for years, were trying to do it 2 years ago in the Montana legislature. I testified against it, and I reminded them that we had quite a terrorist organization operating here in Montana in the form of neo-Nazis or fascists for years, but that they had been dealt with using existing statutes, Montana statutes and federal statutes. And we had an extra statute here called the Criminal Syndicalism Act, which was passed all the way back in the day of the strong labor unions in the teens and 20s by the Anaconda Company trying to put down labor unions. And it's a statute that prohibits the movement of armed gangs into Montana. So we've got quite a lot of good coverage against terrorism already. You just have to catch people doing something wrong and put them in the slammer. Now, the thing that I think needs to be discussed now is what is President Trump going to do next? Is he going to go the foreign agent route, or is he going to try to, when he finds out that his own FBI can't enforce a statute that's not been passed by Congress, is he going to try to rely on the Proud Boys or organizations like that, or just basically tell organizations like ICE to go ahead and do whatever they want, the way he's told his federal prosecutors to go after his old enemies, even though there's no crime. He may do that, and I guess it's up to each person who's involved in those situations to try to stop it in the court system. But one of the things we found here in Montana that Nazis do, and I believe President Trump is a fascist, is they try to jam up our court system. So we had all kinds of frivolous lawsuits going into the court system for years until the attorneys found a way to get rid of them. And I think the number of court cases that are pending in federal courts right now is a result of these various declarations that President Trump has made based on findings that have basically usurped Congress. There's over 300 court cases pending in the federal court, so he's not bashful about jamming up the federal court system. So as long as we have a country where congressmen and senators like the ones we have from Montana are letting him have his way and substitute himself for their work, and we have frivolous lawsuits that clearly are wrong off jamming up the court system, we're going to have to deal with basically a fascist government. And I think the best way to do that is don't let it get you down. These guys don't have a sense of humor, but they deserve to have their day, and we'll come out of this okay. Anyhow, thanks for visiting the Electric Bison. It's a beautiful day here. Take care.